Hi, and welcome to Life Addiction, the Recovery Show. My name is John Louse. I am a certified recovery specialist in the state of Florida, and I'll be your host for the next 25 minutes. We talk about addiction and recovery, and if you're a viewer out there and you have a family member, or if you're in the field, this is a great show because we bring you the latest trends in recovery and addiction, and we also bring you the best guest on. We had a great slew of guests, and today is no exception. Today is Michael Danis. Am I pronouncing that right?
Donnie. It's French. It's tough for anybody.
Okay, Michael. Michael, you are an interventionist and a representative for Clearbrook Treatment Center in Pennsylvania. Welcome.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about what it is you do.
Sure. My name is Michael Donnie. I work for Clearbrook, which is a treatment center in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. They actually have 3 campuses. They have a program for adults, they have a program for adolescents, and they have a family program, all of which are on separate campuses. I can describe some more about those programs a little later, but what I do for them is that I do interventions, I do community outreach, and I do business development. And one of the things that we find most often is that there are individuals that for whatever reason, albeit in Florida or other places in the country, because I travel everywhere, that need to leave where they are in order to seek a safe place for treatment. And oftentimes Clearbrook is a great alternative, a great program for that. Also, the cost point on Clearbrook is far below most of the treatment centers. Although the treatment program works, I can testify it worked for me. So.
Yeah. Now, you're in South Florida, but Clearbrook is in Pennsylvania, so It really is a national outreach program that you do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I get calls every day, messages from people who are in New York or California or St. Louis, Chicago. It doesn't matter where it is, and to the extent that we can, we direct them to Clearbrook. When there's a need for an intervention, we do the intervention. One of the best things about Clearbrook is that Clearbrook allows me to actually go and help the people, whether it's physically by getting on a plane or on the phone or however the communication goes, and get them to treatment. And if for some reason they can't get to Clearbrook, which is very rare because the Clearbrook is very affordable, they take most insurance, so most people can go there. But every once in a while you run into a situation, as we do with friends and people that we know in recovery, where people don't have insurance and they don't have money. And I have contacts all over the country where I can get people into treatment in situations where that's the case.
So you'll actually, as an interventionist, you'll actually go out, fly, meet the client. Now, is this after several phone calls, and how does that work?
How does an intervention work?
Yeah.
An intervention is, no one will ever get sober until they hit their own bottom.
Yeah.
But what an intervention can do is an intervention can stop the elevator before it gets to the basement. What you can do is you can bring their bottom up to them.
Yeah. And
by doing that, there are certain things which I generally refer to as hammers, which are, the economics, either private wealth or trusts, employment, jobs. Then you've got relationships, whether they be family or interpersonal relationships, and then legal consequences. And in most cases, people will always do whatever they can to protect their financial resource, because their financial resource is what allows them to continue to do what they're doing. So what an intervention does is try to bring those things, those elements all together at one time and say, look, there is no more money, there is no more family, there are no interpersonal relationships, wife, children, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it may be. There is no more job, or there will be no more job. And by the way, the police are knocking at the door, or child custody is going to come knocking at the door, or child services, or whatever. And if you can do that, you generally can be very successful in having someone recognize they really are already at their bottom.
Now, that's a fine dance, because we've all seen that show, Intervention.
Yeah.
And so you go out there, you prep the family, you meet with the family and discuss all this beforehand.
Correct.
And then you try to bring the client into that situation. And sometimes that can be very uncomfortable, hostile. How does it...
Well, it can be. It's generally always uncomfortable. I can't think of any situation where it would not be uncomfortable. I have rarely come across a situation where it's been hostile.
Okay.
In general, every situation that I'm involved in, because of the prep work that's done, is never as dramatic as it is on television. But I think, on television they make it dramatic.
Right.
Right. I mean, in some ways that's a form of entertainment. I don't. I personally wouldn't want to be involved in being on television doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's a very private, personal thing, isn't
Right,
it?
yeah. But that's just me. There are other people that do it. And those people that do that on that show are quite successful and good people, and everybody holds them in high regard. So
You're watching Life Addictions Recovery Show. Our special guest, Michael Danis.
Yep.
Got that right?
Yeah.
He's an interventionist, and he's a representative for Clearbrook Treatment Center in Pennsylvania. Treatment center, which I am familiar with. I actually was there years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful facility, beautiful grounds.
Actually, you'd be really surprised in that we have just finished last year a brand new residential on the adult campus, which is referred to as Clearbrook Manor. We've finished a brand new residential treatments facility, which really the residential portion of that facility used to be housed in the manor house and in a building with detox adjacent to the gymnasium. They finished the new residential facility, included detox over there. They then ripped down the wing that was attached to the gymnasium with the offices and detox, because that was already over there. And they're building a new cafeteria and some offices in that location. And when they're done, even though it's a beautiful old building, they're going to take down the manor house.
Wow.
And it will become a park right in the middle of the entire campus. So the entire facility, as of probably, let's say, spring of 2012, will be completely brand new. It will be as nice as any facility in the country.
And it's going to remain Clearbrook Treatment Center. What town in Pennsylvania, so everybody knows?
Basically, the easiest thing to know is, say, Wilkes-Barre, because each of the facilities is around Wilkes-Barre, but they're in different little suburbs, and if I gave you those names, it would confuse people.
Right.
The adolescent facility is a separate facility. It's about 25 miles away from the adult facility, which is good. The neat thing about the...
when I was there, it was all mixed up, and there was a lot of young folks there, and I wasn't so young. It was about a dozen years ago, but there was... so now they separate the adults from the younger kids?
Well, it depends on how you refer to as younger kids.
Yeah.
I don't believe that when you were there 12 years ago, there were any adolescents with you.
Okay.
We're talking about people who are under the age of 18.
Right, okay, no,
Okay.
they were over 18, but they
Right.
were in their early 20s,
Right.
and
No,
I was probably in my 30s.
Yeah, no, there's always a mix.
Right.
Yeah, there's a mix from, 20 to 70, depending on what the clientele is at any given time.
But I think when I was there was a large population of young people in their early 20s, late teens.
Thank God.
Yeah, that is a good thing.
But the because if I could have gotten it when I was that age, I would have been much better off. I would have wasted a lot less time than I wasted. But the adolescent facility, the neat thing about the adolescent facility is because they have primary treatment as the adult does, a 30-day program, but they also have a long-term program, and the long-term program has a separate island, which is sort of in a little river that runs behind the property, more of a creek than a river, but it's big enough for an island. And they do a lot of outdoor activities, sort of outward bound, inclined type of activities.
Yeah.
And oftentimes the adolescents who come for the short-term treatment stay. They opt to stay because they want to get on the island, because the only people who can get on the island are the ones who are there for the long-term treatment. And so it's sort of it's like an incentive for them to stay. And that's any time that you can keep a continuum of care for anyone, whether it be an adult or a child. If it's primary treatment for 30 days, then you can keep some kind of extended care or sober living, anything for a minimum of 90 days in total. That is now what the clear science of treatment of addiction says is necessary. 30 days is not enough.
Right.
You need to have some kind of organized program. And for me, I can tell you that it's extremely important, and that the Clearbrook philosophy is based on a 12-step philosophy.
Right.
And using a 12-step program for the rest of my life is something that I need to do.
So Michael was talking about some of the new trends in addiction and recovery, and we're going to take a short 1-minute break. We're going to watch a commercial about Life Addictions, the recovery program, and the Recovery Pod. Please come back, and we'll be with you in a minute. Imagine a world without addictions.
I lost my father.
I lost my best friend.
Today, the addiction rate in the country has reached epidemic proportions. It seemed that only a miracle could stop addictions. But instead of a miracle, we are given the Recovery Pod.
Within a short period of time, a person listening to the Recovery Pod can make a shift out of addiction.
I was addicted to alcohol.
I was addicted to Oxycontin.
I was addicted.
The Recovery Pod can effectively reduce addiction in our nation. It is for individuals, institutions, rehabilitation centers, insurance providers, and federal, state, and local governmental agencies.
After years in recovery, it still works for me. And now, the Recovery Pod can work for you.
We need to make absolutely certain that every American with an addiction problem can have access to the Recovery Pod as part of their treatment.
Because freedom isn't free if you're addicted. The Recovery Pod. Get it now.
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 The Recovery Pod. Get it now. Hi, and welcome back to Life Addictions, the Recovery Show. What you just saw was a 1-minute commercial on the Recovery Pod. It's a portable recovery device, and it's for people in recovery as well. But if you're not, if you're got a family member, if you know somebody that's in some kind of addiction, drugs or alcohol, this is a great device to get for them. Check us out at our website at lifeaddictions.com or call that number 717-991-4755. We have a very special guest, Michael Danis, an interventionist here in Florida and nationwide, and he also represents Clearbrook Treatment Center in the great state of Pennsylvania, which happens to be my home state.
So yeah, it's a great place.
It really is. Michael, we left talking about some of the latest trends of addiction going from 30 days to 90 days.
Yeah, the standard of care now really is 90 days in one form or another.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to talk about and bring up, some of the latest trends in addiction I hear is prescription drug addiction is just out of control.
It is, and you know, it takes on many different forms. One of the things that's for, and marijuana comes into this stream as well, but younger people have decided, have figured out that or they believe, their belief system is that if they do drugs or they smoke pot or would take especially pills, that they can achieve a high that they wish to achieve and still get away with doing things like driving cars.
Yeah.
So it becomes much more popular because they think it's not something that's going to be as immediately detected. And quite frankly, it isn't as immediately detected by the police.
You know, a prescription slip really is like a permission slip for many, many people in their own minds.
Well, not only that, I mean, my father was a doctor, and my handwriting matched his handwriting. It wasn't anything I ever did, but prescriptions still can be forged. There are pill mills, especially in the state of Florida, that, you know, they're now trying to regulate those. But it's become an epidemic because it's so readily available, and in cases, they can get their hands on the prescriptions and the drugs. They go to parents' medicine cabinets, they go on the street, they can go almost anywhere and get it. You can order almost any prescription that you could even imagine for any kind of thing on the internet with a credit card.
So is that what you're seeing with your clients? I mean, I've heard 8 out of 10 people now are in rehabs for some kind of prescription drug addiction. Do you see that? What do you see?
I do. We do see that, both with adults and adolescents, that the prescription drugs have taken And any further dual diagnosis. I mean, there's often many other dual diagnoses that go along with the addiction. But the problem is that our country has become a country that says, if you don't feel well, if you want to feel better, if you need something, if your life is not perfect, every day on television, everywhere there's a pill for that.
Yeah.
And, children aren't doing well in school, they give them Ritalin, they do whatever. When you do that for a very young child, what you've said to that child in the beginning is, if things aren't going right, take a pill and they'll go better.
Right.
And so, we're setting up our nation to become a nation of drug addicts.
We really are. I mean, the future looks bright for people in the recovery field because the clients are they're getting younger and younger. They're taking these pills to alter their mind and their behaviors. And, I've met some parents that just say, I don't want anything to do with it. It's a natural tendency. And then other parents are like, my little Johnny was so uncontrollable that this medication works. So it's one of those things where...
Well, no, I mean, I have been taught, and I've been taught by other people that went before me, okay, that I'm not a doctor, okay, and that there are good reasons for doctors, and there are good reasons for medications.
Yeah.
Okay, and if there is a reason for someone to be prescribed medication because they have ADD or some other diagnoses, and that's properly done, I take no position on that.
Right.
But when you turn on the television set every day and there's an ad for, erectile dysfunction, lose weight, do this, do that, depression, what has happened in this country is that it's not that people necessarily are clinically depressed or could be really clinically diagnosed as having attention deficit disorder. What happens now is that people go into their doctors, and oftentimes they're not the doctor that is the expert in that field. The experts in those fields know what to do. They do a good job of it.
And these days, you can go just about to any doctor. These pill mills, like you said, these pain clinics, and shop around. And it's a very clean high today. It's not like the old days where you used to go on the street for heroin or coke or that kind of thing.
Well, it's
all in a strip mall, and
Absolutely, and there isn't any really, an opiate's an opiate. There's no real difference between heroin and OxyContin.
Right.
I mean, there isn't.
It's the same effect.
Right.
And they even break it down, and shoot it up and do all that.
They do that now, too, because they can get a faster, quicker high.
Yeah.
But that's secondary. They're in the Midwest right now, in St. Louis as an example, there is an epidemic of heroin. And the epidemic is being caused because the heroin is coming in from Mexico into Texas, and it either comes up straight through the Midwest and then across 70 to Colorado and the rest of the country. And they believe that if they snort it rather than shoot it, that they're not going to be addicted. Not true, but that's the belief.
That's crazy. There's so many misconceptions out there with addiction and recovery, and that's got to be one of the craziest ones I've ever heard.
It is, but it exists. The most important thing, I believe, that anyone can do is that if you are in recovery, okay, which I am, and you are, is that there's certain things that we have to keep private or we don't keep healthy. All right. I belong to a 12-step program. I keep that, except for the fact that I'm glad to say that works for me. I don't really talk about that. But I should be able to, and everyone I know that is in recovery, that has been free of drugs and alcohol, should be public about the fact that they are free of drugs and alcohol, and what life is like being free of drugs and alcohol, and what it was like for me when my life wasn't. Because the more I am public about that part of my life, the more chance there is that someone, some child, some adult, some mother, some father, some son or daughter, is going to see that and they're going to get a message. The best thing I ever did with my own children was say, I'm not going to be Nancy Reagan and just say no. You're going to do what you're going to do. Okay, but if you wait, because of scientific fact, you wait until after the age of 18 to start to if you wait until after the age of 18 to start experimenting the way I started experimenting when I was 13, the chances of you becoming an addict or an alcoholic are greatly diminished.
I like that, because what he's talking about is prevention.
Right.
So prevention is a huge key, and you got to get them young. I mean, even as young as grade school, junior high school,
Absolutely.
and even after that, the universities. But you mentioned a good point. You know, I saw a great speaker at the last convention we were at here at the Breakers, and they talked about how I think it was Robert Shapiro that talked about how, you know, the anonymous should be taken out of these 12-step
Yeah, both he and
titles.
he and Chris Lawford really were making the same.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Same points.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is we're going to take another break, and then we're going to come back with our great guest, Michael Danis. He is an interventionist and a representative for Clearbrook Treatment Center in the great state of Pennsylvania. And you're going to watch another 1-minute commercial on the Recovery Pod, and we'll be right back. Life Addictions, the recovery program, has been under development for over 3 years. It's personal, portable, and more importantly, it works. My motivation to start this business was to help people with addictions, to literally help save lives.
We're best known for our delivery system. It's called the Recovery Pod, embedded with life-saving audio. Just open it up, turn it on, and hit play.
Along with your Recovery Pod, you get a 4-page laminated follow-along guide. What sets us apart from our competition is our message. It's uplifting, inspiring, and to the point.
My name is John Laus, the creator and developer of Life Addictions, the recovery program. Our model of recovery starts with clarity. Clarity from the minute you wake up and open your eyes. Knowledge and know-how. Know-how are the things that motivate a person to change and take action, like your health, your family, a life that works, and a life with a purpose. Life Addictions, the recovery program. Visit us at our website at lifeaddictions.com. And welcome back to Life Addictions, the Recovery Show. Michael Danis is here, our guest, and we were just talking about prevention and getting the word out and trying to not be so anonymous these days, and letting people know that, you know, you can get through it and have a great life, a life that works, and you can share that with others. The pattern for the last 40, 50 years has been, you know, keep your mouth shut about it and only share it with certain people.
I think because there's an element of being in recovery that works, which has to do with one person in recovery helping another person in recovery.
Yeah.
And that being a very private thing. But the point of the matter is that if we don't get the message out that that's what you need to do,
Yeah.
then the other people who need the help aren't going to get it. So it is really important. You know, people can get a hold of me anytime they want. And my cell phone is 561-389-2456. And or you can go to Clearbrook's website, which is www.clearbrookinc.com.
And as you can see, we have that up on the screen as well.
And but the most important thing, the thing that people in recovery need to realize, the thing all of us need to realize, is that we know we have these tools. We've been given this gift,
Right.
and when we're in certain places, we know what to say and how to act and how to help another person. But we need to do that every day on the street, because what it is, what being in recovery is not about drinking and not about not taking drugs. It's about how I live my life.
Yeah.
And if I'm an example of how I live my life, and people can see the joy in my life, they can see the happiness in my life. I just got married.
Yeah.
You know.
Congratulations. by the way.
Thanks. You know, it's wonderful things that have occurred in my life. And they can see that, then they're going to know that maybe there is something. That it's not, you know, it's not for a bunch of really glum people sitting around drinking coffee.
Right.
You know, it's for people who want to have joy in their life again.
if you're watching, and we have many viewers out there, and a lot of the viewers are like us. They're in the field. They're working, and a lot of times when you go through an addiction, you kind of make this your vocation. It's what Michael has done. It's what I have done. It's what many people in the field have done. And he is so right. And I just talked to some people last week at a speakers convention and said exactly the same thing, that it's so much more than just stopping the drinking and stopping the drugging. It's about really having a life. It's about making your hopes, your dreams, and those desires that maybe alcohol and drugs took away from you, rekindle that and really move forward with your life. If you're watching, and if you have somebody maybe a coworker, maybe it's a family member, please call Michael. As you can see, he's a wealth of knowledge, and he'll direct you in the right way. He'll help your friend. He'll help your family member.
One of the things that's most important is what you see in the media all the time is you see the people who are not making it in recovery. You're seeing people who are struggling in recovery. And I wish that everybody in the media would start as an example to show people who are in recovery and who are successful in recovery, because they're unbelievable amounts of people, very, very public people that are in recovery and living wonderful lives.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah. Michael, I want to thank you for being our guest on our show. Thank you so much. And tune in next week for another show, Life Addictions. My name is John Lausch. Thank you.